Born from the real-world needs of Resolve Marine, the Resolve Maritime Academy offers unmatched training for maritime or marine, firefighting, safety, and resource management. Our courses are taught by active professionals, providing hands-on experience that goes beyond industry standards. Whether you need STCW, USCG, or MCA certification, Resolve Academy will prepare you to mitigate emergencies, saving property and lives. Training as real as it gets, with real-world scenarios and live-action simulations. Push your limits, bring out your inner hero, and become an indispensable member of your team. Resolve Maritime Academy, where real-world training meets real-life expertise.
Hello, this is Rick Thomas, host of Yachting USA, produced by Yachting International Radio. Today I'm sitting in the office of Ken Clinton, president of Intrepid Boats. Ken, thanks for coming on board and joining the show today.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on.
I tell you what, it's been a pleasure to drive up here. Beautiful, not quite St. Petersburg, but right where I grew up in. This is my home turf, my home territory. And we just did a nice nickel tour of the facility. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I saw a lot more of Intrepid than I've seen just being on your boats, and I've been on plenty of your boats.
That's cool.
So, no, this is cool. So you're one of my heroes in the industry, and you've got a really cool story, and I'm going to try to connect a couple dots in our conversation. And to be clear, one of the things I think is cool is you and your dad both were shipwrights.
Yeah.
Both in the business. I look forward to you sharing that with us. And now you're down here, you've basically started in the trenches, so to speak, and you grew up and now you sit in the seat and president of Intrepid Powerboats, part of the MarineMax family of companies.
Yep.
That's big stuff.
Yeah.
That's big stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your history,
Sure.
with the wonderful world of boats, yachts,
Sure.
and kind of give us your background a little bit.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about my father and I being shipwrights. My dad worked for General Dynamics in the electric boat division in Groton, Connecticut, where I grew up. He was a first-class outside machinist for them for over 35 years. I followed his footsteps and was a first-class outside machinist. Did that for a while, got married very young, took a honeymoon down here, realized that there was green grass in Florida in February, and I was like, why are we living in Connecticut? So when you're that young, you're all guts. You jump in your truck and you drive down here, you find a place to live. So I was going to be a machinist, but instead I was able to find an opportunity as a boat builder. And that was at a place called Triumph Yachts. Went through the luxury tax in the 90s, which was a nightmare, early 90s, 89, 90.
Brutal if you're building boats.
It was horrible. It basically, they passed this luxury tax and they ended up saying, everybody said, we'll just buy used boats instead of buying new boats. So all the manufacturers shut down.
Right.
At that time, I went to Wellcraft. It was a Genmark company. They consolidated. And then a new company moved into town, and it was Super Hawaii Intrepid, owned by a guy named Yoshiro Katami.
Yes, I touched on that briefly because we have something in common here.
Yeah.
I did some of my first business in the yachting in the same building you did yours.
Yeah, 62nd Avenue.
62nd Avenue, yeah. When I started with them, Vince Lazara owned Gulfstar, and we had Gulfstar Yachts that was then acquired by Viking Yachts.
Yep.
And so I got a front row seat to all of that development of business and how the acquisitions at that time were working and what that looked like. So yeah, cool. Right down the, not too far from here.
Yeah, and it was funny because the luxury tax that made Viking leave that building and consolidate back to New Jersey opened the door for Intrepid because Yoshiro Katami realized there was a big empty boat factory with a bunch of unemployed boat builders in the neighborhood. And he moved to Super Hawaii Intrepid there, and that's when I joined the team. So I joined as a craftsperson. I worked in Station 1. Within a couple of months, I was a lead person. Within a year, I was a line supervisor. Then 2 years after that, I was a plant manager. A couple of years after that, I was VP of manufacturing. A couple of years after that, COO. And then I've been president for about 15 years now.
Congratulations. That's a great career path.
Yeah, it's cool.
It really is. That is cool. You don't often hear about people that start basically at the bottom and work their way up.
Yeah.
But it's our industry. Our industry is a cottage industry at some level, and it's an industry of opportunities.
Yeah, it really is. And being able to go on the floor and be able to work with the people on the floor, my craftspeople, and know what they're doing because I did it.
Right.
You know, it goes a long way on the floor.
Yeah, it would. to talk about on the floor, I noticed attention to detail that is rare. I mean, I'm used to seeing high levels of attention to detail when you're talking about 40 and 50 meter and larger yachts.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about 30, 40, 50 foot boats, and you're basically delivering the fit and finish and attention to detail that I'm used to seeing on the mega yachts and super yachts, that says something. You don't see that on the water when you're cruising around on a lot of boats.
Yeah.
And you guys have done some interesting things. I'm an avid diver, so you can imagine the first time I saw an Intrepid that actually had a door that let me come through the side of the boat to go diving.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
Mr. Obvious, but you guys were the first to do that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was something that we did for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department. They came in and they asked us for a rescue door. And we said, we were looking at a transom door because everybody in the world back then knew we do a transom door. And it was hard because we had outboards.
Right.
So being one of the few people back then doing outboards, because that was when outboards weren't cool, we had to figure something else out. So we went, if we can't go through the back of the door, maybe we can go through the side. So I literally remember we measured the guy up with his dive gear on. We traced it out with China markers, diamond wheels, cut everything out, glassed everything, hinged the piece of the hull that folded out and built a door in the back of it. And the hull side dive door was born. And it was one of those situations where we thought it was a one-off because we do lots of one-off custom projects. And then all it took was one person that saw the sheriff boat, said, I'm a diver. Would you do that for me? And one thing led to another. And I don't know that you can even buy a boat nowadays without a diver.
It's one of the most copied features that's going. And that's a sign that you're innovating.
Yeah.
That's not the only innovation you've done now.
No, we've done lots. We've done everything from being the first ones to do a gyro in an outboard boat, to the first ones to do a bow thruster in an outboard boat, first ones to put head compartments in center consoles, first ones to do actuating backrests and forward seating, and it just goes on and on, the list that we have.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And you're showing me your tooling, the way it comes apart, the way you can make unique shapes that otherwise are impossible to create in GRP, in composite.
Yeah.
And that's time and attention. That's extra work.
Yeah. One of the things that I always I had a philosophy that we don't let geometry dictate our creativity. And that was something that I was big on. When I was young and naive and getting into designing and tooling, we would design something and it would have shapes that wouldn't allow the part to come out of the mold. And as a team, everybody here would figure out ways that, how can we do this? How can we make this happen? And we came up with ways to be able to split the tooling, pull the sides off. So basically, instead of pulling the part out of the mold, we pull the mold off of the part, almost like peeling a hard-boiled egg. So then you say, well, that's not rocket science. If you're doing it, why can't everybody else do it? It's the finish work afterwards. It's an astronomical amount of handwork, but it's the only way to really separate yourself and create beautiful parts that other people aren't willing to invest in.
Like the size of your hulls.
Yeah.
I mean, when you shared with me the number of processes, that's real.
Yeah.
I mean, to get there, and I think that's something that most people wouldn't know or even appreciate unless they really saw it firsthand and understood that compared to some boat builders that pull the hull out of the mold and you basically can just buff down the gel coat and send her on her way.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah. No, it's a process for us to where when you infuse, and I think almost most companies now at this point infuse, it creates heat, it creates distortion, some print through, and a lot of companies say that, well, that's part of the process and it's acceptable. We don't. We will hand fair the entire hull, etch prime it, hand fair it again, 5 coats of base coat clear coat, 6 coats of clear, then massage all the different grits of paper to get it to a polished finish. And it's an astronomical amount of work, but there's something about looking down a hull side and not seeing the traditional hull side that looks like almost like a circus mirror when you look in it, and it's just a perfect reflection of the image.
That's, and particularly if you start then applying darker colors on the hull.
Yeah,
or every little metallics, that's like, you know, another step into the voodoo territory. But the finished product, it's stunning. It truly is. And it's all handmade.
Yes.
And I noticed something, we didn't talk about this earlier, but I wanted to bring it up because you and I share some parallels in our career. We're both in manufacturing most of our career, both in boating, yachting, our entire career. We're both building high-end product that nobody needs. So you have to address that part of the market. built by qualified people.
Yes.
The qualified people part,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yes.
Now, nautical structures, where I have my roots, we still, down the road, have employees that I was involved in hiring over 30 years ago working in the company.
It's awesome.
Where do you find that?
Yeah.
You've got the same thing here.
Yeah, I've got people that over 30 years here, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the culture that is required to achieve that is something that I think you can't ignore. It's truly a culture. I think we're blessed in this part of Florida that we have people that have a culture that allows for that, at least we used to.
Yeah, for sure.
But the corporate culture,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, look, you're only as good as the people that are around you, and I am so blessed to have the team that I have. And I have people with me over 30 years. I've been here 33 years, and I have people that started like literally a month after me that are still with me. And they are the most amazing craftspeople, leaders, hard workers. And one of the things that always comes back to the center is pride. They have so much pride in what they do. And not that we get everything perfect, because we don't.
your hand fabricated, hand built product, you can't.
Yeah. And when we miss on something, they personally feel it. It hurts them to their soul that we miss something. And to work with people that have a love for a product like that,
Yeah.
it's a blessing.
No, it is. And it ties into a conversation we have on this show frequently enough, and that is we're living in a time where employment is challenging. Young people are confused about what their futures could or should look like. We don't do a good job of educating. I walk us back to when I started in the industry, and that would have been the same time roughly you. Of course, I was dealing with some larger boats, and we were picking up smaller Intrepids as tenders, but the point being, North America, Canada, and the United States had north of 40 boat builders building 75, 80, what I call cruise serve, and larger yachts. And now we're 5 or 6, depends on how you count them.
That's crazy.
We've lost so much of our boat building industry. We'll be talking about this here in this conversation about directions Intrepid's going, but the big challenge is, okay, let's say you all of a sudden have a high net worth individual that says, okay, Ken, Rick, I want to build a boat build, a new boat build company.
Sure.
I want to build this boat. And you say, okay, sure, we'll make that happen for you. You can go and buy the tooling, you can buy the facility, you can put a roof over it, you can pave it. You can do everything until time comes to put people to work.
Yeah.
And then you have to say, well, sir or ma'am, we need to find workers to build this, and there aren't any.
Yeah, it's a situation where there's a generation that really doesn't want to do anything with their hands. They don't want to build things. They're a different mindset. So I'll tell you, there's still hope.
Because that's what we're hoping to hear,
Yeah,
because
there's
there
still hope.
needs to be hope.
Yeah, we continue to find, you have to really work hard to find those people. But there is some young talent out there that still has that desire to, that self-satisfaction of finishing something. That was what it was for me. Like to this day, like because now I'm at the position that I'm at, when I go home and I install a chandelier or a shelving unit, or I build anything or work on my car, I love being able to step back and go, I built that, and or I worked on that. And when you find that in a younger man or woman in this day, it's like
Nurture it.
Oh,
You have to.
you do, and you get so excited when because you know that look because you had that look.
Yep.
And when you see them light up, when you go, man, you did, that's beautiful, great job, that wiring looks fantastic, and they're like,
Yeah.
and you go, we got one.
Yeah, that's it. And then you have to figure out how to keep them and develop them and hopefully breed them to bring in more like-minded individuals. But it's a skilled labor. You just can't hire people off the street and say, go do it. And you have a classroom here. I saw that.
Yeah.
So you were investing in the education of your employees and customers.
Yeah, when we built this building in 2015, the most important room out of any of them in here was to have a classroom. And we use it for a bunch of different reasons. We use it to be able to educate, teach, mentor. We use it to be able to do boat reviews and shop order reviews. But anytime somebody leaves that room for whatever meeting that was in there, It's meant for somebody to leave there learning and being better when they leave that room. And that's huge for us as we continue to grow the company, as we continue to have more complicated technology, and it makes people feel like we're investing in them. You know, when boat building in some places is putting the round peg in the round hole all day long, and they call them assembly people. I don't want assembly people. I want craftspeople. There's a difference.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I get it. So you are absolutely, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I know what it looks like, a craft-built boat. You are a hand-built boat. You're a custom-built boat. You've got an amazing facility here that's grown up around you, and you've recently also relocated some operation in Swansboro, North Carolina.
Yep.
I've been to that facility many times with his previous tenants. So I know the facility, I know the water it's on, I know the reasons you put yourself there. Not all of them, I'm sure, but there's good reasons to be there.
Yes.
You're building for the future there.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. You were also acquired recently by MarineMax.
Correct.
2 years ago?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So one of the conversations I like to have, and I think it's an important conversation to have, is we are at a stage in our industry where we've moved from being a cottage industry to being a real business entity. There's just so many players in it. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars worth of revenue in commerce and investments, and you see it in the waterways, in the investments in the shipyards, the refit yards, all the stuff you've seen Director do and Safe Harbor do, and Bradford's is doing right now in South Florida.
Sure.
You go up the coast. But I asked the question, when you look at companies like MarineMax and Safe Harbor and a few others that are buying up companies, rolling up companies, is it for the good of the industry?
Sure.
And I'm not bringing an opinion one way or another per se. I just asked the question because I think it has the potential of being very good for the industry.
Yeah.
It has the potential of being damaging to the industry. MarineMax and Intrepid, give them a grade so far. What do you think?
Yeah, it's been an A so far.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, what's nice is I've had many ownership groups throughout the years. I've transitioned, I think, 4 times at this point. And they're the first group that comes from the industry. So they understand, they get it. The conversations are smoother when you're talking to somebody that understands the industry.
Right.
They care about the industry.
It's important.
Yeah, there's a love for the industry. It's not an equities firm that is, we need to make a profit. It's a group that is passionate about boating, boats, the customer experience, and they understand that it takes an investment to be able to innovate, to be able to create. And when they first pitched themselves to acquire Intrepid Powerboats, that was one of the things that they told me that they were willing to do, is provide capital that I hadn't had in the past. I've had ownership groups in the past that never gave me capital to improve anything.
And without the capital, you got handcuffs on.
Yeah, yeah.
Most people listening to this podcast would be amazed if they understood the margins that manufacturing, boat building, or equipment building in this industry bring to the table. They're very small.
Yeah.
You can't screw up much and expect to show profit, much less even break even.
Yeah.
Then you add to that innovation,
Yeah.
expansion, new technologies, research and development.
Yeah.
That requires capital.
Yeah.
So that's what MarineMax offers. That's what's allowing you to be up in North Carolina.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, is we've always had a dream of being able to have a yacht division to do bigger boats. We're pretty limited with the size of the facility that we have here, plus the other facilities on the water, which is a huge benefit to be able to launch right there from the property. So it's a great opportunity to not only have a facility that's on the water, but there's generational craftsmen there.
There's a boat building culture there with trained people. You might have to drag them from other businesses and other industries to come back to boat building, but they're there.
Yeah, and we've had that luck. We've had the ability to be able to get people that, my dad built boats, and I built boats with my dad. I built boats for XYZ companies, and they're so happy to have a boat company back in Swansboro, and we're blessed to be there.
It's a great boat company back in Swansboro.
Yeah, it's cool.
It is. While we're on the business of boating and yachting, and we've all navigated through challenges. In 1990, we had the luxury tax. We talked about that.
Yeah.
2008, it was almost like a light switch went off.
Yeah.
2020, we had a worldwide pandemic that made changes in our industry we never saw coming.
Yeah.
But they also, with that boom and everybody wanting to be on the water and have a boat, you had absolutely supply chain issues.
Yeah.
You had delivery issues. You had employment issues.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up. In 2008, I know in my company at the time, thank God we were in the large yacht industry where we had projects that took 2 or 3 years from conception all the way to delivery, if you can believe that.
Sure.
So we had that flywheel effect. And so by the time we were running out of business that predated 2008, going into 2010, business was starting to come back, and we navigated that. But if you were a boat builder, particularly a production boat builder,
Yeah.
a lot of boat builders didn't survive that.
Yeah, it was a situation, I remember it clearly because it was a scary time. I remember I would tell the story that the lowest our backlog ever got during that pandemic was $29 million. And people go, wow, that's amazing. I go, no, the backlog before that was $107 million. So it gave you an idea of how big a shrink we saw. And $29 million backlog back then.
25% of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe 5 months worth of work. You know what I mean? It goes quick. And when you're so used to, and back then we were always out 2 years, 2.5 years, and all of a sudden now you could get a boat in 5 months. It was a really scary time. But that's when, it's funny, I always joke about that's God's way of flushing out our industry. And
because natural selection in a way, right?
It really is. Because I always feel, and this is a personal opinion, that
you're entitled to it.
There's a lot of people out there that are building boats that probably shouldn't be building boats, and this is the way that it gets cleaned up sometimes, because the strong survive.
Well, I've seen that in boat builders and equipment builders. It repeats itself. When times are good, everybody looks around and says, oh shit, I can do this myself.
Yeah.
So you go hang a shingle while times are good and people are desperate to get, whether it's a boat or a piece of equipment delivered, they'll go wherever they can find that. But then, like you said, when times get tough, all of a sudden, where's your business acumen?
The pandemic was a sure sign of that. So the pandemic comes through. There's no better way to do social distancing than on a boat.
Yeah.
Then, now look back in the last couple of years. How many times have you gone to a boat show and seen a company that you've never heard before and you went, now who is that?
Right.
Because everybody that had a mold in their backyard started a boat company because the demand was extremely high.
Yeah.
And there was just not enough product at that point. So anybody that had any kind of opportunity to build a boat, and I think we're in a downturn now somewhat. But I think so during this, I think it's another situation where we're cleaning up the environment a little bit.
It has to happen. It has to happen. Something else I've observed in my career, and you're now walking down that path, and that is the tendency, it's not even a tendency, you almost have to do it. You build clients, your customers are with you from early on, they get brand loyalty. You just are in the process. I saw 51 out here? 50. Yep. And you've got a 51 up in Swansboro right now. So you're feeding your clients the bigger boats that they're demanding.
Correct.
You're also talking about building a bigger boat up there.
Yep.
A little scary?
Yeah, it is. It is because demand changes often. 1 minute, you look at the numbers and everybody wants a big boat. Then you start tooling up, and you got to remember, when you tool up a project, it takes 1.5 years, 2 years in some case to get to the other side of it to actually have product. And a lot can happen in 1.5 years, 2 years. You can get to a point where, what you've been working on for the last 2 years may not be cool anymore. So it is scary. It is very scary when you follow trends and you look at where people are purchasing, what they're buying. It's a big investment, and you want to make sure you don't miss. It's really easy to get wrong.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that. Plus, like you said, it's an investment. You've got the tooling, you've got the design work, the naval architect, or the tank testing, I assume that's going on.
Yeah, and plugs and molds and all these things that you have to do and design it to make sure that it's going to do everything that it needs to do the proper way. So you're $2 million into a project, and you don't want to get to the end of a $2 million investment and go, wow, that was cool 2 years ago, but
well, now you got shareholders at MarineMax too that they're cool with seeing growth of a company. They got to have growth in a company for a company to stay healthy. They also want to see return on the investment as well.
Correct.
So you got additional pressures.
Yeah. Well, and it's important that we're responsible. We're responsible for people that invested and believed in us as a company. And we want to make sure we don't miss. It's really easy to get wrong.
Yeah,
And we owe it to them to make sure that we run the company the best that we can. And one of the things that we have in common with MarineMax is they're all about the customer. And that's what's number one, is making sure that we deliver high quality and give the best customer service. And that's something that MarineMax believes in, which made it really easy for me to understand that it was a good partnership.
No, this sounds like a wonderful partnership. And on the record, while I've been critical of other types of roll-ups I've observed over the last few years, I applaud what MarineMax has done. I think I mentioned to you, I had a conversation not long ago with Bert Fowles, IHE Marinas.
Awesome.
I watched what's happened there.
Yeah.
Beautiful marriage, beautiful connection. Good friend of mine started Fairport Yacht Support, a yacht management company. He sold his business to MarineMax, and I've watched what's happening in that organization. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's good because I think the corporation wants the success and understands what it takes to get there and what it takes to stay there.
Yeah, correct.
And it's a constant investment, and it's a constant being present in the industry. So what you're doing really is you're feeding your future. You've got more and more entry-level people coming in, buying the smaller Intrepids,
Yep.
learning a little bit about what it is to be part of Intrepid Nation.
Yeah.
And as they kind of enjoy their fraternal experience, they're moving on not to somebody else's boat, but they're wanting to stay within the brand. They're creating brand loyalty for you.
Yeah. Well, they're our best designers too. So when we do design sessions with our customers, we build per person. It's not like we have a bunch of inventory on the lot that you pick the red one or the blue one. We spend time with our customers and we find out what interests them and what's important to them and what's not important to them. So when we tailor these boats, you started off in a 30 with us or a 32 and they're thinking about stepping up, and it's like, so what would you want to go bigger? What's important to you? And you listen to that. When I go to boat shows, I don't go there to sell boats. I go there to mine data and to be able to talk to customers about what they loved about their boat, what they wish we would have done, what we could have done. And then I come back with that data, and that's when the next model is born. And people tell me all the time that, Ken, you and your team are the best designers in the world. And I always laugh and I go, it's not us, it's our customers.
Let me strike a parallel with what you just said. I sat down with Farouk. He's in sales and in business development with FedShip. FedShip, I think, can make the claim that they are the best, if not one of the very best yacht builders in the world, for a lot of reasons. And that's not to say you couldn't find another boat built that could arguably be demonstrated as slightly better than a FedShip, but that's unlikely.
Sure.
His comment he made to me, which resonated, was, we don't sell FedShips. We have FedShip clients come and ask us to build them something special for them.
Yeah.
We're not out trying to convince anybody to buy our product.
Yeah.
And that's a great place to be, and I sense that's more or less where you are with Intrepid.
Yeah.
You have your customers coming because they want to buy an Intrepid. Your obligation is to deliver them the standard they're expecting and the boat that they want.
Yeah, what I've seen a multitude of times is I'll be sitting right here in this chair and I'll have a husband and wife sitting across from me, or we'll be in the design center. And they'll say something like, I love the port side seating, but there's a cabinet there. I wish it was 6 inches taller. And I'll go, yeah, we can do that. I can cut it and I can raise it. And there'll be a couple other little things. And I'll say, yeah, I can do that too. And they'll stop and they'll look at each other and I'll smile and I'll go, what? And they said, this is so different sitting with you than it is with sitting with other manufacturers, because we've sat with several other manufacturers and they all go, that's the way it comes. And we don't do that.
You can change the upholstery color.
Right. Or the paint,
right.
Stuff like that. But those other things, and to the manufacturer's defense, the other manufacturers, that's hard to do. When you have any kind of a production manufacturing facility, you want things to kind of go like this.
Yeah.
But it's hard when this person wants this and this person wants that, and they're all in one line.
It's disruptive.
Yeah, it's very disruptive.
It's disruptive.
And one of the things that we benefited from is, because everybody says, how do you do that? It's got to be so hard. And for us, I look at it like, we just don't know any better because that's all we've ever done. So it's not disruptive. It's our life.
It's your culture of your company.
Yeah.
Culture of your brand. You know the background I come from.
Mm-hmm.
In my first involvement with Intrepid Boats was picking them up with the equipment that my dad and I were manufacturing at Davit Master. And then when I started Nautical Structures, getting your boats onto the bigger boats or towing behind the bigger boats, there's been a trend in the last decade or so putting boats that you're building into tender garages on board. So that's a big ask. Do you have sit downs with designers or clients that ask you to retract a hard top or meet a certain height requirement or weight requirement? How customized do you get going down that path?
It's funny that you bring that up. So we did the tender to cakewalk.
I know the boat and the build.
Yeah. So the cakewalk boat had a very short garage opening. And of course, it was such a famous boat. We really wanted to be a part of it. We loved being the tender of choice. So we built a carbon fiber hydraulic T-top that you could literally, you had a windshield that was mounted to the center console with quick disconnects that you could drop. And then you could hit a button and the entire T-top would lower. So then you
How
could get
cool
into
is that?
Yeah, I mean, and those are the things that we're willing to do because it was required. It was either that or they were going to have a boat that was less desirable, and they all have something in their head that they want.
Right.
And it's nice to be
And
able
they're
to.
trying to figure out where the compromises have to be allowed for whatever, and then you take away some of that compromise.
Yes.
I also understand on some of your boats, you go the other way. You've got helms that rise so that you can look over the windshield.
Yeah, one of our newer inventions is the high-low helm. And it's funny because I would get customers that would joke with me. I had great relationships. My sales team, all of us, we love our customers and we're friends. And they'll come in and they'll go, not everybody with money is 6'2".
I was just going to say, I'm not the tallest guy, and on my own boat, I wish I could move mine up about 4 or 5 inches, 3-4 inches, be perfect.
Yeah, I had one customer in particular who said, short people have money too. And so I go, okay, I get it. So we decided, and what really started the trend was I started getting requests for step boxes. And once you do a few step boxes, you go, there's got to be a better way. And that's when we said, we're going to build something hydraulic that you're going to push a button and it's going to rise up to the height that you want and lower it when you want to. And it's really turned out cool.
I love it. I love it. Let's go back to those innovations and all that. And your boats, they can be towed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you actually make a tow package or do you leave that to others?
Yeah, we make a tow package for it. And those tow packages as well have been ones that we've designed with captains over the years.
Right.
We've learned from them the best tow heights and what's important so that it tows properly. And the biggest thing that I've learned over all these years is if you can put your ego in your back pocket and listen, it's amazing how much you can learn and you can grow.
Right. No, that's it. Active listening.
Yeah.
And being willing to put the ego aside a little bit and take the feedback and then say, hey, that was not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Ken, one of the things I talk about and I like to engage is, I call it doing well for others. We talked about it briefly, and I'm looking at a wall over here, very motivational statements. And if anybody follows you, and a lot of people do follow you, they'll see oftentimes on a Saturday morning, you show up bright and early.
Yeah.
And this is the leadership part of business that I respect so much. And I've always respected what I've observed you doing as a leader of your company, to show up early in the morning.
Yeah.
Not every president of every boat builder does that.
I'm here at 5:30 every morning.
See, there you go. But you stand in front of those, and I'll take a picture and we'll throw this up on the podcast for those who are going to watch this podcast instead of just listen to it. It's funny, I wrote some of these same things are on this Post-it note I wrote down when I was going through some of what I had observed. And I think there's a little doing well for others there because you shared with me that you've gotten feedback. People have seen that, and it's been inspirational.
Yeah. I started during the pandemic. It was such a down, depressing time. Everybody's trying to keep their businesses open. And I decided that I wanted to start wearing inspirational t-shirts.
Right.
So I'd come in on a Saturday morning. I would find I found a company that I could literally write whatever I wanted to, change the font, and they'll mail it to me in 3 days.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
And I use it to this day. I just got a couple of shirts the other day because I still do it on Saturday mornings. So I would post something inspirational because I wanted to pick people up. And I'd do the, hey, Saturday morning, let's go, let's do this. And I'd have that shirt on. Well, I did it for a while, and then I stopped. And you don't really realize, is anybody paying attention? Is anybody watching it? And then all of a sudden, a Monday came, and I had all these DMs in my mailbox saying, what happened on Saturday? Where's your shirt? And there was no post, and I can't drink my coffee in the morning until I see your post.
All of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm resonating.
I had no idea. Really had no idea. And then, the other day I had a phone call from somebody that was really touching, and I've had this several times, but this one was so much so that they said, I don't know that you realize how many people you affect and how many people you inspire with your posts. We all talk about it, not in front of you, not around you. We comment on it time and again, but I literally tell other CEOs, because this was a CEO who was talking to me, that they needed to have their staff watch your videos. And you change people's lives. And I was like, wow.
Well, when you're the first guy out and you are in the vanguard and you're doing what you're doing, which is proactive, and it's consistent and it requires a little bit of dedication to do it, that's, like I said, it's leadership, and people pay attention to that. I want to wrap up with what I see on the wall. There's one up here that I think really resonates for me. It says success. It's a noun.
Yeah.
Is not an accident or a chance. It's hard work, patience, learning, and sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'd add one more to that: leadership.
Yeah.
I think you don't get success without good leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you bring to the table. It's what I admire in you, Ken. And
I appreciate
I think that's a great way to say thank you very much for joining the Yachting USA podcast. I look forward to seeing the future of Intrepid and jumping on some of your boats and having the experience on the water, which is so consistently good. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
That's my pleasure.
I appreciate it.
And this is Rick Thomas, host of Yachting USA. I'm produced by Yachting International Radio. And until next time, I'm out of here.